They move at the edges of your vision. They are the sudden dark that has no source. They slip between the ticks of a clock, in the space between one breath and the next. People have given them names. They call them shadow people. Some simply call them the Watchers. Others, the Dark Visitors. None of these names are meant to be kind. None of them bring comfort. They are a question mark drawn in the deepest black, a presence that arrives without invitation and leaves without a sound, a feeling that lingers long after the shape itself has dissolved back into the familiar shadows of your room. You will not see them at first. That is not how it begins. It starts with a feeling. A sudden, unexplained chill that crawls up the back of your neck. A single hair that stands on end. A silent alarm your body sounds for a threat your eyes cannot yet confirm. You might take a quick, sharp breath, only to realize a moment later that the breath was not your own. The room, once filled with the gentle hum of the house settling, will fall into a profound and heavy silence. The very air around you will feel thick, as if you are moving through water. Then, and only then, you might catch it. A flicker, a slip, a shape that glides by, just at the periphery. This shape is like a shadow, yes, but it is not like any shadow you have ever known. A shadow is cast by something. It is an absence of light, tethered to an object. This is different. This thing is the object. It has no discernible features, no face to read, no clothes to identify. People have seen them in so many places, in so many different circumstances. They are not confined to one location. They seem to favor the forgotten, the lonely. They appear in old houses where the floors creak with the weight of memory. They stand on the platforms of empty train stations late at night, long after the last train has departed. They materialize under the stuttering, unreliable glow of a flickering street lamp. They stalk the sterile, white-walled hospital corridors that smell of bleach and metal, places where life is both fragile and fleeting. Most often, however, people see them in their own rooms. They see them in their dreams. Some meet them at the blurry edge of sleep. There is a name for this state. It is called hypnagogia. It is a moment when the logical mind begins to power down, but the imagination is still awake and unbound. In this state, the veils between worlds, or perhaps just between parts of the brain, are said to be thin. It is here, in this vulnerable gap, that the figures often appear. They are a common feature of a terrifying but understood phenomenon, sleep paralysis. The experience is brutally consistent across cultures and centuries. A person wakes up, but they are completely frozen. They cannot move a muscle. They cannot speak or cry out. A heavy pressure settles on their chest, making it hard to breathe. And then they see it. A figure stands by the bed. A figure sits upon their chest. The figure is pure, featureless black. It often leans close, its non-face just inches from theirs. The person wants to scream, to fight, to flee, but their body is a prison. This is the classic description of a sleep paralysis episode, a waking nightmare caused by a glitch in the sleep cycle. It is real. It is terrifying. It is not always a shadow person that appears in these visions, but the cold, paralyzing fear is always the same, always. The phenomenon is not a new one born of the internet age. If you look, you will find these figures hiding in the deep corners of history. Old stories from around the world speak of them, though they use different names. Folklore tells of the Watchers, the Dark Ones, or the Shades. They are the uninvited guests in ancient tales. Some cultures deeply feared them, seeing them as omens of misfortune or death. Some built roaring fires and performed rituals to drive them away, to reinforce the boundary between light and shadow. The names change from one land to another, from one century to the next. The fear, however, does not. There are certain places that seem to attract these shadows, or perhaps they make us more likely to perceive them. Abandoned houses, with their broken windows like vacant eyes, are common hotspots. The air inside feels heavy, laden with the dust of forgotten lives. Places of sudden, tragic death and locations marked by deep, lingering grief seem to hold an echo. Some old ruins hold so many stories of loss that the light itself seems thinner there, and the silence is a living thing. Thrill seekers test their courage. Many leave with a quick, nervous tale. Few ever stay long enough to learn the truth. What do the shadow people want? This is the central, haunting question. The answers are only guesses, born from terror. Some believe they are observers, silent chroniclers of human loss. They are the audience when the fabric of a life is about to tear. Others believe their purpose is more parasitic. They think the shadows feed on energy, on fear, on life force itself. A more disturbing theory suggests that they are mimics. They copy us, study our movements, our habits, our very forms, learning how to be more like us for a purpose we cannot fathom. For some witnesses, it is worse than being watched. They feel a profound alien ache, a sadness not their own, a push into the mind. It shows them images of a cold, empty place, faces with no eyes, a world devoid of warmth or light. They wake with a memory that feels ancient and foreign, a piece of knowledge they were never meant to have. It touches the core of identity and leaves them fundamentally changed. Investigators approach these phenomena from two very different directions. Some use light as a weapon, or at least a tool of revelation. In some reports, the form flinches and folds in on itself, avoiding the brightness. But light can be a liar. It may reveal nothing but dancing motes. The form melts back into the wall. Others use sound. They call out. They play low and high frequencies. Sometimes, only their own echo. But on rare nights, the shadow answers. A beat, a pause, then a corresponding step. That is communication. It confirms a responsive entity. The cold climbs into the throat. At the midpoint of nights like this, boundaries blur and rules can change. The watcher grows bolder. It steps closer, more defined. It tests resolve like a quiet, patient predator. It will not always harm, but it will watch how you breathe. It will learn the scent of your fear. If you want to uncover more secrets, subscribe to Whispering Dark Shadows. Some insist it is a trick, a broken brain, a tired mind playing games with itself. Yet some accounts do not fit. A man in a hospital saw a shadow at the foot of his bed. It played his life at impossible speed, showed the child he never had, the road not taken. When the lights came on, the room smelled of fresh rain. His vitals were calm, no seizure. He slept like a child and woke profoundly changed. The stories are not always so benign or philosophical. Others tell of far more violent and direct moments, encounters that leave more than unease. A hand grips in the dark, icy cold and impossibly strong. A force pushes them downstairs or shoves them against a wall. A cold breath on the ear. Their own name spoken in a voice that was not human. These claims are hardest to confirm. Raw, visceral, deeply personal, leaving scars in memory, but rarely evidence. Investigators set slow shutters. Long exposures capture faint traces the eye might miss. Thermal imagers sometimes show nothing, or worse, a moving patch of cold, a shape measurably colder than the air. A shadow cold to thermal is troubling, not obeying basic rules. Doctors study the one instrument in every sighting, the brain. They scan, monitor sleep, measure oxygen, and ask about stress, diet, alcohol, medications. The brain is a pattern-finding machine, hardwired for faces. A trick of light, a curtain in a breeze becomes a lurking figure. Fear colors the story. But the world is vast and old. Science may lack words for some things. There may be layers to reality, dimensions brushing ours. Liminal spaces, doorways, hallways, the edge of sleep, in between places where doors open slowly. From there, a shadow might step through. We may never have all the answers. The truth may be a mosaic, with some pieces belonging to science and some beyond our grasp. Perhaps that is the point. It keeps its most important secrets in the silence. It forces us to feel small, to confront the vastness of what we do not know. A stark reminder, our light does not reach every corner. It holds space for our most profound questions, unanswered. If you walk a lonely street at 2 in the morning, pay attention. Watch the pools of light. Watch how the light seems to breathe, to pulse, to flicker. In the seam, a shape may pass, a flicker of movement too quick, too tall, too thin to be a normal shadow. If you see it, do not stare for too long. Do not challenge it or call out its name. Move on with calm, steady steps. Continue on your way and live with the knowledge that not all silhouettes at night are cast by people like us. Some learn to live with the shadows. They adapt, change lighting to eliminate deep corners, keep voices on, a television or radio to fill the silence. A child afraid of the dark sleeps with a night lamp, a small beacon against the night. These are small shields, honest attempts to reclaim safety. Sometimes they seem to work. The night feels less sharp, less threatening. Others become seekers. They do not hide, they seek to understand. Buying recorders and cameras, entering abandoned houses with caution and resolve, spending hours in archives, connecting notes, speaking with others, building stories like nets. They rarely catch the solid truth, but sometimes they catch a single fragile thread. These threads sometimes lead to small truths, grounding a ghostly shape in human history. A house of many sightings once belonged to a coal miner. He worked in deep halls of earth, came home covered in black dust, tired and angry, and died alone there. The house kept his rhythm, his anger, his solitude. Decades later, residents felt the shape of that life. The shadow walked with a stooped gait, a human echo, a residual haunting, a memory trace. Another kind, the watcher of loss. A mother sees a child-sized figure in the nursery. An old man sees a familiar silhouette at the window, just as his brother used to do.